I got an ad on YouTube recently. Yes, I know about ad blocker, but I like getting to choose whether to watch the ads based on how much I'm enjoying the video. I refuse to like, dislike, or comment on anything. I just hit skip ad and assume my intentions will be psychically delivered to the creator like hairs standing up on the back of their neck. They'll notice those 10 missing cents. They always do. And when I'm in their head like that, that's where I do my best work. And the trailer flashbanged me with the news that it was in fact advertising Black Ops 7, which, holy shit, how have they done that many ops at this point? We all know you're doing the ops, guys. The little Sharpie is not going to be enough to cut it anymore. But also, I guess we're just doing Menendez again, which should annoy me, but that 9 Inch Nails track crept in just right. So now I'm really damn pumped, even though I was raised better than that. Between this and Tron Ares, I've discovered that the secret to brainwashing my ass is apparently just to put some killer industrial rock in the background and call it a day. Called 9 Inch Nails the Twin Towers in 2001 the way they blew up twice recently. I told you to stop watching these, Mom. You only have yourself to blame for being offended by that. You are walking in the woods. There's no one around and your phone is dead. Out of the corner of your eye, you spot him. Shia LaBeouf. Despite what my tendencies imply, I'm not against just enjoying something for what it is. I listened to Weird Al Yankovic. I watched Inside and said nothing. You couldn't pry my thoughts about the Tenacious D drama out of me with a car battery. I'm more than equipped to just hear funny songs and go, yeah, that's pretty funny. And I'm perfectly capable of just leaving it there. If I actually wanted to read into something for the hell of it, you would literally never be able to get me to shut up. Trust me, I've dabbled in running my mouth just to see how long I can talk. This is not one of those days. I've read enough against interpretation quotes to have achieved the literary equivalent of watching a movie in 200 parts on TikTok.
I'm watching billions on YouTube Shorts, just in 60-second increments, because my life is...
So how many do you watch in a day? Like how many 60-second billions?
I mean, how many minutes are in a day, brother? Yeah, you.
So you can probably put too much trust in me when I tell you that I don't overanalyze things just to prove they're worthy of my enjoyment. I do it for the love of the game. I've interpreted metaphors you couldn't even imagine about movies you can't even see. I've written paragraphs you couldn't comprehend about themes no one's even heard of. Because they were nonsense. They were completely unrecognizable as thoughts. My only takeaway from the Phoenician scheme was that it's just Dune if Duke Leto didn't go out like a little bitch, and if Lady Jessica just did her job and had a Bene Gesserit daughter. My mind is like a glue trap for exclusively incomprehensible concepts, and it is not humane. That kind of brutality occasionally breeds what is known by people whose opinions I refuse to read as survival of the fittest. And when an idea manages to pry its little legs out of the glue, that's when I get to do this part. You know how doctors say you should take all your antibiotics because otherwise the bacteria can become like a super bacteria? Well, when I forget to euthanize the voices in my head, this is what we get. So I know, I know how what I'm about to say sounds, but I forget to take the rest of my pills, and I'm making it everyone's problem. The music video for Shia LaBeouf Live by Rob Cantor elevates the song to such heights that the audio-only version is unlistenable to me now. He made choices which are so good that I can't enjoy his song anymore without the visual feast to accompany it. It makes me ashamed that I needed a short film to see the interpretive potential, but here we are. I just wanted to laugh at the funny cannibal celebrity song, and now it makes me feel things in my body like art does. Damn it. Get that finger away from the dislike button. We both know that won't do shit to me. You've got to skip an ad, and no one's monetizing anything within a 50-mile radius of this mug. There's radioactive waste with more commercial appeal than me, such as The Elephant's Foot and that one new Lilo and Stitch movie. I think we just gotta start with the song itself, because before you can really grasp just how much the music video is adding, we need a baseline of what was here to begin with. And what was here is a pretty kick-ass song. This dark comedy follows a 3-act structure.
You're walking in the woods.
The intro establishes the tone of the tale that's about to unfold before us. Just one line in, and there's so much to talk about. The voice Rob Cantor is using is theatrical and clearly evocative of Rod Sterling's introductions to The Twilight Zone.
Walking in the woods. There's no one around and your phone is dead.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. Shia LaBeouf.
It prepares a first-time listener to expect something familiar but uncanny, improbable but maybe not as much as you'd like. The voice is direct and commanding, and you aren't sure yet whether he's on your side or not. You're not even sure if there are sides here. He seems to dictate events as if he's simply an observer to something outside of anyone's control. But where he gets to impartially view these events, you are subject to them. That's the other thing you learn within the first few seconds of the song. It's going to be told in the second person. It's the kind of thing your brain is probably picking up on, even if you can't put your finger on it, because of how it puts you in the middle of the conflict. Being directed like this adds to the omnipotent energy the narrator gives off. You're being puppeted by a force you just began to perceive, and already he's thrusting you into the midst of danger. It's just unusual enough to make you wonder if this is only part of the intro. Maybe this whole thing is just setting the stage like the start of a Shakespearean play, and soon we'll be saved from personally staring down the barrel of whatever threat waits in these woods. But that respite never arrives, and the thing waiting for you in the woods is getting closer. The name of it escapes as if exhaled in fear or awe or some horrible mixture of the two.
Shia LaBeouf.
This impartial narration, though it seems to be safe from the threat, is still taken aback to discover that it is Shia LaBeouf who waits in the corner of your eye. He's following you, about 30 feet back. He gets down on all fours and breaks into a sprint. He's gaining on you. Shia LaBeouf. While your mind is still reeling from the knowledge that this random guy is following you around, he suddenly reverts to an animalistic form. The fact that he's sprinting on all fours implies that this is faster for him. The image is one of a predator embracing his element, and as you try to push out the image of a man sprinting on all fours, you learn that he's not just faster this way, he's faster than you. And the voice once again states his name, not in a whisper anymore, but almost heralding it.
Shia LaBeouf.
The unholy fear has given way to grim acceptance, the kind you hear in nature documentaries as a hunter picks off a defenseless member of the pack. This is just nature's way, but that's little comfort for you at this moment. Without the protection of a screen to defend you from the natural order of things, panic sets in. You're looking for your car, but you're all turned around. He's almost upon you now, and you can see there's blood on his face. My God, there's blood everywhere! It was implied that the beast chasing you down wanted to do you harm, but the exact method was undefined until now. There aren't many ways for someone to get blood on their face. You know for certain now what kind of monster is hunting you, and there's little doubt where his intentions lie. Once again, the narrator breaks his flat affect to get invested in what he sees. Despite the attempts to be impartial, what he is seeing is impossible to take in without a note of terror creeping back in. For a first-time listener, so much of the humor comes from just how quickly you're expected to keep up with everything. Each line is economic in its delivery. There's no fat to be found. As soon as you think you've got a handle on things, some new tidbit is just dropped in casually to double down on the absurdity. You're left feeling overwhelmed by the sheer casual nature of it all, as if this was almost to be expected. So when the narrator once again loses composure, you don't get the impression that it's the sight of blood that shocks him. It's the sheer volume of it. That much blood can't possibly be the result of hunger alone. He's doing this for fun. With a full idea of the stakes at hand, the real hunt begins. Running for your life from Shia LaBeouf. He's brandishing a knife. It's Shia LaBeouf. Lurking in the shadows. Hollywood superstar Shia LaBeouf. Living in the woods. Shia LaBeouf. Killing for sport. Shia LaBeouf. Eating all the bodies. Actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf. The chorus, if you can even really call it one, is the first chance you get to breathe, ironically. This is almost a summary of everything we've learned so far, and it gives the joke a sense of pacing. At the peak of ridiculousness, as you're supposedly running for your life, we take a little break to recap the story so far. The feeling of being out of your depth is replaced with a certainty that everywhere you turn, Shia LaBeouf is waiting. Whatever you do, there he is. Lurking at the end of every line is the potential that he's caught you. And it's confirmed that while this may be life or death for you, it's all just a game to him. Like a cat toying with a mouse, he's just letting you tire yourself out for his amusement. And maybe, with the time to reflect on everything, you think to yourself, why in the hell would someone write this song?
Now it's dark, and you seem to have lost him.
2012 was a different time. The world was ending, and I was still just a middle schooler, which I think means I'm old now. At least, I finally got kicked off my parents' insurance like a month ago, so I'm pretty certain old is approaching with a bat aimed at my spine. And I will not be able to afford corrective surgery because there's no way in hell I'm paying for good insurance. Good insurance. That's like saying a pleasant kneecapping. What's next? I'm going to ask for a stable economy? In this economy? The more years that go by, the more I kind of wish that Mayan calendar had just done its job and drowned us all. This was before your mascot horrors or analog horrors or Roblox horrors of today. This was a time of creepypastas, where the scariest thing people could imagine was like a guy just sort of out in the woods who kind of just stood there, menacingly. You had your anorexic albinos, the broom, Benz who couldn't swims, and even Jeffrey the murderer. Honestly, Jeff the Killer was just the Joker. Can we all admit that at this point? We all wanted to dunk on Jared Leto's Joker, but if they had made that movie like 5 years sooner, there would have been a whole crew of preteens drawing him making out with old Jeffy Stabman on DeviantArt. A 12-year-old's edgiest concept was just, what if the Joker, but no Batman? And that 12-year-old grew up to be Todd Phillips. These were the days when Shia LaBeouf was still known as Transformers Guy, and he was potentially on his way to being the next Indiana Jones, though I'm not sure anyone actually expected that to take off. We were still capable of imagining a better world in those days. One where hopefully we all just got to drown. When you think of Shia now, there's a lot of baggage that comes along with it.
Do it! Just... Yesterday, you said... Tomorrow, you said... So just... Do.
But for a short, beautiful time in our lives, this guy could not miss. Hole Boy from Holes, Kid with Baseball Bat from I, Robot, Steven Stevens from Even Stevens, which I didn't watch and will not look up, Chaz from Constantine, that's funnier than any name I could have come up with, and of course, Happy Feet from Surf's Up. But like I said, 2012 was a different time. Before it was a music video with millions of views, multiple choirs, and a quartet, Shia LaBeouf the song was just a funny idea dropped onto SoundCloud. The constant repetition of the name Shia LaBeouf is the core joke to the song. Rob Cantor was helping a friend move, and another friend, Andrew Lorich, kept whispering the name in a creepy way. The whole joke was born from the fact that Shia LaBeouf's name sounds mildly funny and threatening when whispered over and over again. A lesser man would be tempted to spend an extra 5 minutes wasting as much time as possible saying, isn't that crazy? Like 19 different ways. But like I promised, I'm capable of just hearing a thing and saying, yep, that's good enough for me. So we'll just practice that here. If you've been watching mini-series length video essays a lot lately, feel free to rewind this video to the start again every time you get to this part until you get your fix. At least this way you know you're not missing the one new thing I've had to say in the past feature-length span of time. You do know there are white noise machines out there, right? Now it's dark, and you seem to have lost him, but you're hopelessly lost yourself. Stranded with a murderer, you creep silently through the underbrush. As we enter the next verse, you find yourself hesitantly safe for the first time. But the threat, it still lingers in the darkness. You're in a catch-22. The shade of the woods at night supposedly helps you lose your pursuer, but it also ensures that you've lost any hope of an easy escape. You have to learn to adapt, and you begin to live like Shia LaBeouf, stalking through the tree line looking for any sign of life. You're still the hunted, but already you're beginning to take on the ways of the hunter. As you adjust to the darkness, though, a small chance at freedom shines through. Aha! In the distance, a small cottage with a light on. Hope! You move stealthily towards it, but your leg, ha! It's caught in a bear trap! Some chance at civilization has pierced this nightmarish world you found yourself in. While a cabin in the woods wouldn't normally inspire hope, you've delved into such dark places that any sign of protection from the elements and the predators that call them home is a welcome sight. But that moment of confidence and joy is enough of a distraction that you forget what you've learned in these woods. If you aren't looking out for danger, it's looking for you. The interjection adds a moment to let your heart sink as your leg lands in a bear trap. The pain must be intense, but the shame is what holds me the longest. So close to the one spot of light in this place, and now it's further away than ever. The brief hope you had was stolen from you as quickly as it was found, and it's enough to drive anyone to tears. But now is not the time for that. Your stay in these woods has done something to you. Maybe it's the terror of being chased by a cannibal, or maybe it's some innate nature within you, but without hesitation, you meet this new obstacle with a ferocious response. Gnawing off your leg. Quiet, quiet. Limping to the cottage. Quiet, quiet. Now you're on the doorstep. Sitting inside. Shia LaBeouf. It's hard to ignore how batshit of a response this is. There are saw traps with less intense requirements than this. It's like these woods just give people the urge to start ripping into flesh. And while it's never brought up, I have to imagine your own face is now covered in blood as well. I wasn't joking around when I said this is a full-on dark comedy. In just a few seconds, you've discovered the kind of hardships that would drive someone to do the kind of things actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf has resorted to. Just one night out here has turned you into someone capable of not just biting off your own leg, but immediately getting up and making your way through at least several yards of dark woods to a cabin. And don't go thinking that this was the end of your struggles, because guess whose cabin this is? Of course, it's Shia LaBeouf. Who else would be living out here? It's that shame all over again. Why did I fight my instincts? You never trust the cabin in the woods. But at this point, screw it. What's the worst he could do to you? Right? Sharpening an axe, Shia LaBeouf. But he doesn't tear you into Shia LaBeouf. You're sneaking up behind him. Strangling superstar Shia LaBeouf. It's almost insulting how calm he is. His back turned to the only door, lost in thought while he sharpens an axe. Honestly, why were you ever afraid of this man? Someone who needs an axe, and a sharp one at that, to cut through flesh? While you were out here using nothing but incisors to get the job done? Even with one leg left to rot in a bear trap, you aren't the scared prey that Shia LaBeouf stalked in the day. The night has turned you into the hunter. You approach what once seemed to be an untouchable idol with only one thought in mind. Kill. And so it begins. Fighting for your life with Shia LaBeouf. Wrestling the knife from Shia LaBeouf. Stab it in his kidney. Safe at last from Shia LaBeouf. I've never heard the phrase comedic power fantasy used before, but I really can't think of a better way to describe the way the tables have turned. It's been like a minute, and now the choir of voices which once hearkened your end are cheering you on as you take this once threatening blade from the hands of your attacker and drive it into his flesh. The world building of specifically calling out his kidney is a stroke of genius, like that was his video game weak point or something. Truly cannot overstate how funny it is to be really specific with completely unnecessary information, as if stabbing him on its own wouldn't have communicated that you'd gotten his ass. Despite how silly everything leading up to this has been, there's a real triumphant feeling when you're declared safe from Shia LaBeouf. There's a sense of having earned this victory, and the sacrifices along the way appear now like the inevitable loss of innocence required to become the hero of this story. The song gives you one last victory lap, and depending on which version you're listening to, your journey may have finally ended. You limp into the dark woods, blood oozing from your stump leg. You've beaten Shia LaBeouf. With a small reminder of the price you had to pay to realize your full potential, you're given confirmation from this seemingly omniscient narrator that you've won the day. The SoundCloud version ends here, with slightly different lyrics, but when he decided to elevate this song to the status of performance art, Rob Cantor made an incredible decision. Shia LaBeouf is raised from the dead.
Wait, he isn't dead. Shia, surprise.
So Shy Surprise is objectively hilarious to say. If everything else about this part of the song was horrible, it would still be worth it for that phrase, and it's a genuine surprise on the first time through. Unless you're watching how much time is left like a friggin' nerd, everything about it communicates to you that the song was over. The narrator has never strayed from the truth before, but once more, your assumptions have been upended. You're not sure which is worse, that the narrator lied to you to give you a false sense of security, or that even this powerful being was fooled into believing you had actually won. Whatever the case was, it's clear that Shia LaBeouf needs more than a kidney shot to go down. Once more, you have to prove yourself to have the stronger will, and this time, he's not going to underestimate you. Wait, he isn't dead. Shy surprise, there's a gun to your head and death in his eyes, but you can do jujitsu. Body slam superstar Shia LaBeouf. Alright, you can do jujitsu now?
They fly now!
I have no clue what to do with this information. Either you could do jujitsu this whole time and just chose to run away, or the narrator has downloaded this skill into you like The Matrix or some such horse ass. It's such a the writer wrote themselves into a corner and just needs to get out somehow answer to the problem, and I'm all for it. After spending the whole time inhabiting this protagonist, I'm just cast aside. This song was never about me or you. It's about some cool badass who just casually knows jujitsu well enough to body slam a full-grown man while missing a leg. What else are you supposed to do with a gun to your head? First, he had a knife, then an axe. Clearly, you've shaken him up because he just graduated straight to trying to shoot your ass. This must be a last resort. After all, this can't be fun for him in the same way hunting you with a knife was. Even as he returns from the dead, you're seeing cracks in this impenetrable hide. Perhaps he cannot let you leave these woods with the things you have seen, or maybe he's just mad you made him bleed. Either way, he's no longer playing games. Finally, you two are on equal footing, and you can do jujitsu. Legendary fight with Shia LaBeouf. Normal Tuesday night for Shia LaBeouf. You try to swing an axe at Shia LaBeouf, but blood is raining fast from your stump leg. I'm reminded of a movie I've never seen based on a video game I've never played.
The day bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was...
The sudden escalation of power levels just keeps on going. Once again, the action is rising at a breakneck pace, and every time you feel confident that you've become a legitimate threat to this force of nature, you're reminded that he's been doing this far longer than you. Luckily, you brought his axe with you, but unluckily, that leg has been jettisoning blood all night long. It seemed like a necessary sacrifice at the time, but now that you see where this night has gone, you can't help but kick yourself, no pun intended, for losing focus. The what if flashes through your mind for a moment. If you had just looked where you were going, would that have been the difference between making it out of these woods alive? He's dodging every sight. He parries to the left. You counter to the right. You catch him in the neck. You're chopping off his head now. You have just decapitated Shia LaBeouf. Things start off rough, and he seems to have you on the back foot. The short, simple sentences propel you forward through each action, and each punctuation feels like a blow that you just barely manage to maneuver past. You listen with held breath as you struggle to find an opening, and finally, he slips up and you land a blow to his neck. What remains is just a formality. Like any good monster, his head must be fully removed before you can be certain of his death. That blood-soaked face which chased you through those woods, the face of Hollywood superstar turned cannibal Shia LaBeouf, must be detached from his shoulders before you can rest easy. His head topples to the floor expressionless. You fall to your knees and catch a breath. You're finally safe from Shia LaBeouf. Even in death, we are reminded of how inhuman this whole encounter was. Despite multiple blows to the neck, his face holds no grimace or sign of pain. Your victory is certain this time, but you don't feel the satisfaction from before. There's no fanfare, just a slow fade away. The narrator lets out that terrible name one last time with some amount of reverence, and now that you're truly safe again, we can depart from this world. There's nothing more for him to observe. Not for us, though. We still have plenty to observe. There's a whole music video to get through. I swear, I was supposed to get to this part way sooner, but it turns out it's really hard to talk about a song without going line by line. Every day I stray further from the light of God and closer to the inevitable 10-hour video essay about how Dune is actually about how much it sucks when it's hot outside and you get a little sand in your toes. There are a lot of choices you can make when adding a visual component to a song. Some people choose to take things very literally and just act out the lyrics.
Dancing, walking, rearranging furniture.
Others might take a more aesthetic route and create seemingly unrelated videos which capture more of the feeling of listening to the song, like how perfume commercials have to visually tell you how something smells. Along that spectrum of options, Shia LaBeouf Live sits pretty squarely in the middle. The video is a filmed stage play which takes an interpretive dance approach to displaying the lyrics as they're heard. The dancers are more or less following the exact script the narrator lays out for them, but there's still an abstract nature to it all, and that's where we can start getting into some weeds. The opening does something the song itself could never quite do. It puts the narrator in the space. Before, we could get the impression that he was watching over these events, but in the video, he is literally standing there watching things unfold. Visually, he takes the place of a character like a muse.
Honey, you mean Hercules. I'd like to make some.
This solidifies the implied Twilight Zone nature of the tale. This is folklore, a story designed to help you empathize and perhaps learn a lesson along the way. The humor still comes from the fact that it's a ridiculous lesson to be learning, but using the visual language of a play, we can recognize and intuitively understand what this story is trying to mimic, and that can add some depth to some of these symbols. For now, look at these dancers. What a great dance. It's definitely meaning something to someone, I think. Oh, that's neat. Just ribbon dancers from the ceiling, like some Cirque du Soleil shit. That's awesome. Wonder if this is like a metaphor or something. Pretty cool. I'm no expert in dance, and in fact, I'm not even an amateur in dance. I'm more of a Tommy Wiseau of dance, actually. Like, I've seen other people doing it, and I think it looks cool, but when I do it, people like it, but I don't think it's for the reasons I would want. We're all laughing, but everyone else is pointing fingers, which is pretty rude, but as long as they're laughing, they can't throw those beer bottles at me, so I'm not about to stop now. Despite all that, I've seen Frances Ha one or two times, so I'm pretty confident I can figure out what this whole dance business is all about. Each new verse brings with it an escalation on the previous one. First, we just have two dancers, a victim and a Shia without a mask. Most of the moves are pretty literal, down to the Shia dancer actually going to take a bite out of the woman.
Was that the bite of 87?
In the second verse, the victim transforms into 4 different dancers, as if the complexity of the situation is now more than just one human body can translate. They still move mostly in unison, but at times they'll split apart like each one of them is a piece of the victim's psyche conflicted on the right action. The dance is starting to get less literal, and I begin to lose my ability to understand what the goal here is. Not sure what this means, but it probably would have been really profound if I had just managed to watch Frances Ha for a third time. The Shias have also split into 4, and they've donned the infamous Shia LaBeouf paper masks. Hidden behind that pale, unwavering stare, they take on a more eldritch, unnatural appearance. The PlayStation 1 graphics of it all gives them an uncanny valley look that sells the threat while also adding to the joke. The heads look goofy, but only because you have that screen there to protect you. You probably wouldn't be laughing if someone wearing that mask came sprinting at you at the dead of night. And that knowledge rests uneasy in the back of your mind at all times. The third and final verse meets the new action-packed finale with gusto. The 8 dancers face off in an abstract battle surrounded by a stage fully lit and packed with performers. People are dancing around, flitting ribbons back and forth as even more performers descend from the ceiling. A mohawked individual does a more literal dance battle with a buzz-cutted gentleman in the background. They mock up a slow-motion Reiki massage style of fighting that you might see in a backyard full of preteens who just saw a Zack Snyder film for the first time. The amount of red on stage for this finale is also really prominent. Red mohawks, red ribbons, red shirts, red robes. Everything is tinged with the implication of blood, passion, and rage. It was harder to catch before because the lights were very selective about how much you could see at a time, but with it all illuminated before you, it's clear that all this time, red was the theme. Even from the beginning, the narrator wore a red shirt with a crimson red tie and pocket square. The inevitability of this ending feels telegraphed by the subtle colors that had been splashed throughout the earlier sections. Even before you knew what was waiting in these woods, blood had tainted everything around you. As the final blow is dealt, something interesting happens. Shia LaBeouf has only ever been on stage as the antagonist, entering from off stage to present some obstacle, but here, as the light fades from his eyes and the narrator describes you recovering from the experience, we instead dim the lights and center one of the Shia LaBeoufs. We watch as he rises to face the lights, shielding his eyes before being struck down on all sides by a violence implied by red ribbons which enter like snakes all around him. The camera cuts, showing Shia LaBeouf fall away to reveal only the narrator once more. The tale ends where it began, with a muse standing alone in the void that remains between tales. And we are left to ponder the lesson for just a moment before applause. The horror isn't the only thing that's heightened by the video. The humor gets a few new bits too. My personal favorite is the zooming in on that one kid's face whenever he says, "Quiet, quiet." I don't know how to explain it except to say that this kid had Rizzler potential. Thank God he didn't live in such dark times as we do now. There's also just the joke that comes from how seriously everyone's taking this objectively ridiculous story. In an interview, Rob Cantor said that what he liked about the music video was the juxtaposition of something so serious as a stage play with something so absurd as Shia LaBeouf hunting people for sport in the woods. Something which he learned was known as bathos. It's a Greek word which just means depth, but in modern use it means undercutting something profound and artistic with something silly or anticlimactic. It's building up a legendary fight with cannibalistic Shia LaBeouf just to chop his head off with ease less than a minute later. Bathos is probably the best answer to the overall question of why this song works. By playing the whole thing straight, you get to enjoy a joke that is produced on a level much higher than a typical comedy. It taps into common visual and oral shorthand to tell a very unusual story in a very usual way. The choir, lighting, quartet, narrator, dancers, and costumes all give the impression of someone trying very hard to tell a deep and artistic tale about a celebrity who eats people. It's the basis of most dry humor. What we find funny about it is the dramatic irony of it all. No one on stage is acting like they find this funny. To them, this is life or death. It's only on the outside looking in that we can find this whole situation amusing. That required seriousness inevitably means that intentional choices have to be made. A lot of smoke and mirrors goes into bathos when it's done intentionally. You have to sell the fact that tension is actually being built while being fully aware that you aren't going to deliver on it. You have to treat the whole thing like a pretentious art project for people to find it funny that someone put that much thought and effort into the Shia LaBeouf cannibal song. Bathos, which is too meta, is hard to enjoy. We need to buy into the fact that this is a real play to enjoy how wild it would be for someone to make this a real play. All these choices might seem like they were building to that climactic final fight, but Rob has one last bit of bathos waiting for you on the other side of the applause. After being drawn into the story, we're quickly reminded that we're an audience watching a play. But every seat seems to be empty, and the applause of only one person yet to be revealed echoes stiffly through the theater. And then he's there, and everything falls into place. This was never a story meant for you. This was never meant for me. There's only one person who has ever been in the audience to watch this play live, and his name is...
You're finally safe from Shia LaBeouf.
Seeing the man himself give a standing ovation is one of the greater twists in the history of music videos, a genre known for its clever twists. This is the moment that I knew this song was more than just a joke. To anyone else, this might have been about ego, but to Shia LaBeouf, this was an opportunity to participate in one of the more unique performances of his life. And participate he did. In an interview with MTV News, the third worst place to read the news behind Twitter and over the shoulder of the clearly racist guy in front of you on the bus, which is just Twitter with more steps, Rob Cantor said that Shia LaBeouf was actually into the idea almost immediately. He knew that Mr. LaBeouf had heard the song before because he had tweeted about it, but just 3 days after asking his agent if he would like a role in the music video, Shia said yes. Scott Ohlfelder, the director, says that shortly after pitching the idea of the ending, Shia volunteered this clip from Citizen Kane as a reference. He didn't just want it to be like that scene, though. He went so far as to get his wardrobe just right to match the scene. The overall concept wasn't Shia's, but the execution belonged solely to him. And what an interesting choice to make. When faced with something as simple as applauding a performance, Shia LaBeouf found a way to deepen the moment into something that seems too personal to ignore. I said before that this music video made me ashamed. Ashamed that I couldn't see the depth possible in all the bathos. But Shia LaBeouf seems to have known from the start what more this song held. He's the only person who can't be content just to hear this song and leave it at that. This song could never be a ridiculous joke for him, and why should it be anything less than personal? To him, this song isn't bathos, it stays serious until the very end. The slaying of this giant-headed mimic is laughable to me, but he saw in it something which sparked comparison to Citizen Kane, and that is no laughing matter. So, what can this seemingly innocuous scene of a man clapping tell us about Shia LaBeouf's relationship to a song bearing his own name? For starters, he seems to be self-aware about his image here. Charles Foster Kane wouldn't be my first choice in relatable characters. He is, if anything, the anti-Gosling.
I drive.
For the sake of time and oversimplification, to make my point stronger, Kane is a rich man who wanted to use his platform for good, to seek out principles which he thought would make all the wealth and heartache that came from giving up his childhood worth it. At this point in the film, he's lost a lot of public opinion, but he's still grasping onto any chance at gaining back the affection of the people around him. He's built an opera house for a wife who didn't want it, and put on an opera for an audience who doesn't seem to care all that much. In a swelling of emotions, he attempts one last time to sway the minds of the world around him, a feat which in his younger years took no effort at all. He stands and applauds without reserve at a performance put on by him, for him. He seems almost unaware of himself until a spotlight highlights him and he's shaken from his trance. In between the time the original song released and the music video was created, Shia's public life had taken a shift. He had a reputation now, and it seemed like he was attempting to take back some amount of privacy and ownership of his own life. He was running away from this public image of him, which inevitably continued to grow out of control. It was like a beast chasing him wherever he went, something which seemed impossible for him to ever overcome. His fame and status, which he had attempted to use to create things he thought were good, had suddenly turned on him. Now they were shackles, expecting him to be more than human because he had been lauded as such. He wasn't allowed mistakes like any other person because he had more than just any other person. He was Kane, and this song was just one more reminder of how easily you can be turned into someone who shares your name and little else. If the audience is meant to be the one in danger throughout the tale, and it's made up of entirely Shia LaBeouf himself, then the threat was always something more than being killed. It was the threat of being consumed by a false, sensationalized image of yourself. The fear that actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf will long outlive anything the man himself will do. In a moment of self-aware acceptance, Shia LaBeouf looks out at the monster the world wanted to make him, and he applauds its death. He's finally safe, free to be himself again. But that relief comes too soon, and perhaps the lesson wasn't learned. Even in a seemingly empty room, once you've been placed on that pedestal, you can never just be yourself again. As quickly as he is relieved from the public eye, He's cast back into the spotlight, made aware of himself, and he crumbles instantly. He's finally safe from one Shia LaBeouf, but a new one always rises to take its place. Back into the woods we go, to run, to hide, to fight, and hopefully this time, to truly win. I don't know Shia LaBeouf, and it's likely that I projected more than I'd care to admit while trying to see what he saw at that moment. All I do know is that no matter how much interviewers pried, no matter what people wanted to be true, when Rob Cantor was asked what Shia LaBeouf was like, he said, on set he was extremely kind and gracious, unpretentious and professional, and he nailed every single take, as you'd expect. I came here just wanting to laugh at a music video I really liked, but I leave with an appreciation of the beauty that exists wherever we choose to find it. Shia LaBeouf could have taken the whole thing personally and just turned it down, but instead he saw the opportunity to make something more than himself. I think it's important to leave it here with that. Damn it, Blake!